motorcycle racing. That's what I did. and then, when I realized I probably wasn't good enough to pay for my future by racing, I started working, and actually one of my first jobs was to set up a computer games company. And we developed some very crude games, and we started selling them. And the trouble was, in those days, there was no distribution. So, there were no sort of retailers. So we sold everything mail order, can you believe? Kids would send us checks, and we would wrap and pack the games at night and send them off in the post, and they'd play them on their home devices. And in those days, it was all on tape and discs. So very different world. But it was a generational change in computing terms and in home computing terms. And the company was called Cascade Games, and it became very well known. And the games we produced became very well known. And it was only really later, when Nintendo and Sega and Sony moved into the market, that we got roundly murdered, really. But you can still find our games on the internet, unbelievably. They've become modern collectibles, a bit like old vinyl LPs. So I was very proud of that. And then we closed the business down and sold up, because we just we hadn't got the resources to compete with the big international players who came in the market once the market started developing. We were very much a sort of a pioneering business, but we just couldn't, unfortunately, compete with the kind of money that came into the business. So I then went to work for the London Underground, working on a massive change program on the back of the dreadful fire at King's Cross Station in 1987, which killed, I think, around about 37 people, unfortunately. There was a fire in the booking hall at King's Cross Station. Nobody quite knows what the cause of that fire was, but one of the things that came out in the public inquiry was that Judge Fennell QC, who I had the privilege of meeting, an amazing man actually, he basically said that whatever the cause of the fire was, there was a management malaise in the business, and it needed a deep cultural change across the organisation of the Underground. And so I joined a team to do just that, and worked for Dennis Tunnicliffe, now Lord Tunnicliffe, and had a fantastic 4 or 5 years with the Underground, and then got picked up by Bob Reed the second Bob Reed. There were 2 Bob Reeds as chief execs of British Rail, and Bob had been challenged with breaking up and privatising British Rail, and he asked me to go and run 1 or 2 of the engineering companies up in Derby, which is what I did. And help sell those on the market, and as part of the privatisation of the railways. And I did sell those companies, and then came back to London and helped package up and sell the train operating companies that were in the sort of south of Birmingham group of TOCs. And then went to run one of the big TOCs, and sort of sold that off into the private sector, to Prism Bus actually. After that, I went to work in the city, and moved to Paris actually, and then did a lot of mergers and acquisitions work for a big conglomerate called AXA Investments, and enjoyed a good number of years working for them, doing M&A work around the world, and that was a massive learning curve for me, partly because I had to learn business French and go to a French business school, but also it was very stretching because I'd had no formal training in that area at all. I was not an investment banker and hadn't come up through that route. So I found that very, very difficult, and probably the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges I faced in life actually. But eventually got really, really fed up of sitting on planes and being in hotels, and just started hating it. So came back to the UK and set up another company called First Class Partnerships Limited, which was a consulting company which grew to a decent size and became quite successful, and also an open access company called Renaissance Trains, and we promoted the original idea of Hull Trains and created the Wrexham and Shropshire Railways open access railways. And then latterly I joined the department at the request of Philip Rutnam, the permanent secretary at the time, after the department had had a very, very bad experience with a failed procurement on the West Coast in 2012. So that is sort of how I've got to where I am now. It's a rather peculiar and unplanned journey, as I said. I view and value female colleagues as entirely and exactly and completely and utterly equal to me. I don't see the and I'm obviously blind to it because there are differences, and I understand the struggle that women are having. I do really understand it because I have a daughter of my own, but also I have, you know, many female friends who are professional people, and I can see the struggle they're having. But if you ask me personally how I view women in science and engineering, and I've you know been in the science and engineering fields in parts of my career, they are eminently capable colleagues and people who stand up for themselves and stand out, in my opinion. I see people of different colour, and I see people of different faith backgrounds or of different sexuality, for example. But that's not how I look at people. You know, I tend to look at people as, you know, I take them at face value for what they are. You know, you're either a good person or you're not a very nice person. Most people I know are very good people, and you know, you're either skilled and competent or you're not. And for me, you know, if you're a good person, you're skilled and competent, you have every entitlement. Is entitlement the right word? You are equally as entitled to the opportunity for success as anybody else. And I think for me, I'm fed up of seeing mission statements and slogans on walls and corporate mantras about, you know, diversity and inclusion. Those are not going to change anything. Nothing. The only way things are going to change is when we start to recognize that we are all equal, and everybody is entitled, in my opinion anyway, to an equal opportunity to success. Whether they grab that opportunity, whether they make the most of it, whether they reach for it and work for that is another matter. But everybody is entitled to be given a chance to succeed. The thing that I really value about working with women is the very different lens that they tend to look at problems through. Men tend to approach solving problems in quite a binary way. It's sort of, you know, if there's a nail in front of you in a piece of wood, you know, you take a piece of hammer and you bang it and you hope it works, you know, you hope. Whereas, you know, women tend to look at the problem differently and say, well, why is that nail there? You know, should it be there? And, you know, is hitting it with a hammer the right thing to do? And I find that incredibly valuable and challenging. My message to men in positions like me is, don't think about this too much, don't over intellectualize it, don't debate this too much, just get on and do it. Open up the opportunities for women, create the environment in which they can succeed, and support them on their way up through the career ladder. And those are not difficult things to do. And if you get to a place where you've got enough candidates applying for a very senior position, and you've got female candidates that are over the line, let's give them the platform to shine. You know, don't fall back onto conventional wisdoms. Be a little bit brave and take some chance. Because if we don't, was it Einstein that said, if we keep playing the same game by the same rules, why do we think anything's going to change? It's not. You know, so I think those men who are in positions of responsibility and power, whatever that word means, can do, you know, you can do something. And I just think we talk too much about it and act too little. One of the things you can do in a position like mine, and in my view, one of the responsibilities I believe I have, is to create a more equal world around me. And I don't want to be some figurehead or some leader. It's not really my chemistry or makeup. I'm not particularly good at it, Sana. So, but the one thing I can do, given the position I'm in, is to create a more equal environment. Stand up and shine. Stand up and shine, and never take no for an answer. Set yourself your goals, and never ever let anybody damage your path. If they are damaging that path, move around them, under them, over them. I don't care what you do. Get around them. Move on. You can do it, and you will do it, and you will find people who will admire you for what you are and want you for all the reasons of excellence and brilliance that you are as a person and that you bring through your qualification and experience. Don't be put off. Don't ever be put off. Keep reaching for your goals, and put around you people that are strong and encourage you. Don't run with the weak and the discouraged or the negative. Run with the strong and the positive, and keep pushing and keep fighting.